So my name is Isabela Garcia. I'm a professor at the Universidad Camilo José Cela in Madrid. The university is part of the institution, but I'm also working with the schools. I'm part of the general director team. I'm overseeing the early childhood education programs at SEK. And it's my pleasure to be here today with my colleague, Dr. Alfonso Amado, who is working with all our schools in Spain. He has been doing workshops. He has been working with the teachers to help us improve our practice, to help our children. So it's truly a pleasure. So we will be diving into some of the questions many of us carry as parents about how our children think, feel, grow, and sometimes struggle. To help guide us through this conversation, we are very lucky to have him because, he's a doctor who has a lot of experience working with children and families. So yeah, Alfonso, I don't want to take more time of your presentation. So if you would like to add a little bit more about, your background, your experience, or if you want to go straight into the presentation, that could be great. I'm pretty sure that we are going to learn so much from you. So I'm very thankful you are here with us. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'm Alfonso Amado. I'm a neuropediatrician and I work at the Álvaro Cunqueiro Hospital in Vigo, and I have my own clinic called La Ruta Azul, as it's seen in the slide, with a team of speech therapists and psychologists, occupational therapists, pedagogues, and psychiatrists as well. And in Galicia, I'm in Galicia in the north west of Spain, near the Atlantic Ocean. So there's the logo of the SEC International School Atlántico, which is near here. Thank you all for listening. I hope my comments can be useful in your day-to-day, to every family. And I want to emphasize that the simple fact of having managed to attend this talk shows your commitment to the development of your children. So thank you very much again, and thanks to SEC International School for the invitation. And I feel as well tremendously honored to be able to participate in this meeting. So let's start. So I'm a specialist in neurodevelopment disorders, and I'll talk about them. But a lot of the things we'll talk about are applicable to any child. I mean, the goal is always to optimize the abilities of that particular child, regardless if they have a neurodevelopment disorder or not. So this is applicable to every child, every children. What are neurodevelopment disorders? Well, here are some examples. I'm sure that all of you have heard about ADHD, Tourette, dyslexia, autism spectrum disorder. So this has some kind of complexity of all these that they can occur in combination with each other, and in fact is often they do so. They are classified, the neurodevelopment disorders, through the DSM-5. This is not a technical thing, but this is something that I want to emphasize just in order to get to other part that I think is very interesting, but we have to understand this. So the DSM-5 is a manual of psychiatrists, although many neuropediatricians like me, including myself, believe that an update of this classification, this is why it's in black and white, because I think it's a classic classification, is not updated, and something new would be necessary to reflect the advances that have been made in genetics and early detection in recent years. This is why I put the photography in black and white, because I think the photography will be a thing of the past, but for the moment it's the most accepted theoretical framework and the one that we work on. Why do I say this? Because we do not have to see the neurodevelopment disorders as independent boxes, no, but we want to see them as a continuum of symptoms that can vary over time, and that has a common susceptibility base. For example, it is quite common to have an allergic basis in a family, and from that allergic basis, different members of that family can develop different symptoms: rhinitis, atopic dermatitis, asthma, intolerance to cosmic proteins, but everything being under the same umbrella of susceptibility. I hope that can be understood. In this article, already describes the common basis of genetic susceptibility to neurodevelopment disorders, so different, such as autism, ADHD, autism disorders, attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder, bipolar disorder, major depression, and schizophrenia. These 5 neurodevelopment disorders are under the same umbrella. So we try to think as a continuum, not independent boxes. This led that many researchers consider that it would be necessary to rethink the current diagnostic classification. And this is the most important slide, just to understand how neurodevelopment disorders develop. After all this theoretical framework that I think is good to understand, we come to the end. This slide, as I said, summarizes how a neurodevelopment disorder develops. We start the game with some cards. We have to play the game of life with some cards that are given to us and that we don't choose. That cards are the genes that we inherit from our mother and father, and this is our genes. These are given to us. The prenatal environmental, as you see here, acts on these genes that are imposed on us. If my mother has suffered an infection disease, if I have been exposed to tobacco or alcohol, if my mother has eaten poorly, which can cause de novo mutations. All these things can cause mutation in that genes. And the postnatal environmental also plays a role. And here is the key that we are going to talk about today: how the child sleeps, how I eat, how I learn, how I receive stimuli. This is so important. The postnatal environment. The school I attend to also has an impact in this environment. All these influences the child neuroplasticity, for better or for worse, it depends. And it ends up generating a susceptibility to developing a neurodevelopment disorder, which will be greater or lesser, or more severe or less severe, depending on all these factors. And I really hope that this is understood. And now, after this, we want to talk about some more interesting things. Let's start with talking about nutrition. We will mainly talk about things that children have to do every day: eating and sleeping. They do it without exception every day. Sleeping, maybe not every day, but it depends on the child. The world in which most of us live is a mechanized, routine world with practically unlimited access to calories. This situation is not what existed tens of thousands of years ago, so our genes are not prepared for this environment. And certain previous evolutionary advantages now become very harmful, as we see today with obesity. Previously, as I said, individuals who have the ability to accumulate fat for periods of fasting have an evolutionary advantage. I mean, if I can be able to retain fat, accumulate fat for periods of fasting. This is an evolutionary advantage. But right now, here in 2025, this is a disadvantage, and no one doubts that obesity is such a health problem. So how do combine good nutrition with preferences of each child and a reasonable shopping basket with information? One last fact. Children fed with a healthy diet during the first 2 years of life may have a higher IQ. In other words, based on proper nutrition, you will positively influence their neurological development. Eating healthy, as I said, variety, no, different things, different food, not quantity, not calories, is important to their brain, and that's the most beautiful thing of your child, he or her or his brain. How what we do with their diet now will have an impact in the future. It will have an echo in the future. We are and they are what they eat, what we eat, and they will be what we feed them. So this is crucial. This is very important. We're going to focus on two things, I think the most important things, and iron and DHA, EPA, that it's omega-3. We start with iron. As a disclosure, I'm not a nutritionist, so I'm going to try to simplify it as much as possible from a neurodevelopment point of view. What I think may be the nutrients that I consider most important for the neurodevelopment. The main one, iron, as I said. Iron is a precursor to a neurotransmitter called dopamine. I know all of you know dopamine and have heard a lot about dopamine. It's well studied that low iron levels are associated with attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, and other types of neurodevelopment disorders. Not that they are the cause per se, but they do contribute to its severity. It is very difficult to find a child between 6 months and 5-year old who is being tested with blood tests that their iron levels are adequate. It's very rare. It's very common, the other thing, that the iron levels are low. So it is so common that in our clinic, in our practice, we measure iron levels we do it with a few drops of blood, just as sugar is measured. So where do we find iron? Mainly in red meat. That's it. In red meat, there's a lot of iron. In case of vegan diets, that we have many patients that are giving vegan diets, it is highly recommended to seek advice from an expert nutritionist or consider supplementation of iron. DHA, EPA, it's omega-3 acids, and they have a positive effects in cognitive function. This is something that is well understood, and there are a lot of papers about this. And for many years, there have been many studies that demonstrate this. The same as before, it's not common for children to have adequate levels of omega-3, especially if they do not eat fish. So supplementation is usually quite common in children. In relation to supplementation, it is very important to look at the milligrams of DHA, EPA contained in that supplement. Not all supplements are the same, and we have to carefully look at the milligrams of DHA and EPA that contain that supplements, as many of them, they contain very low levels that will have virtually no effect. So this is our general recommendation regarding nutrition. Nutrition influences everything. The younger the child is, the more important is the nutrition. The goal is to establish proper routines from the start, from the beginning, from the 6 months of age. No electronic screens. I'm going to repeat this. No electronic screens. And I hope all of you are going to repeat this as well. No electronic screens during meal time. It is so important. Avoid foods with high palatability at an early age. Time allotted to the meal. Allotted to the meal. There's 30 or 45 minutes to the meal. No more time. Do not substitute food with other more palatable foods it's very important, as I said, the variety, not the quantity of the food. We don't care about calories. We care about the variety of food. And it's very important to enrich our diet with foods that are rich in iron and omega-3 fatty acids, no, omega-3. So next step, sleeping. So important and so annoying for parents sometimes. So I think all of you with this slide, you are all calculating how many hours your children sleeps, and it's very difficult for them to fulfill all these hours. Calm down. I know it's very important. It's very difficult for them to fulfill all these hours. So we want to talk about some things that can improve sleep. So I know that maybe many of you have this problem, is that when your child has to go to bed, no, get into bed. We have to differentiate in terms of sleep different difficulties, no? The difficulty falling asleep, the difficulty of awakenings. Difficulties falling asleep are relatively easy to solve since we have a shortcut for our children to get into bed. Of course, we have to have a good sleep hygiene, no, good routines to get into bed. But when we have some kind of when they change the time, or we were on our holidays, on vacation, and then we have to go to the school. Um, Sometimes there can be a disruption in the hours of getting to bed. We have a supplement called melatonin, and when a child has a delay in the onset of the sleep phase, the supplement is very effective. When the problem is getting to bed, the melatonin is very effective as it allows a very fast conciliation. And of course, as I said before, no screens before bed. And this is other problem that is not as easy as getting to bed, is the awakenings. It's maybe the main problem for family, the awakenings, and a child who does not have the typical case is a child that does not have great difficulty falling asleep, but who wakes up continuously at night, causing a disorder in the whole family, as well as in himself or herself. And in these cases, melatonin will never help you to have fewer awakenings. Melatonin does not help in the awakenings. It only helps when it's difficult getting to bed. In these cases, awakenings, we focus mainly on how that child falls asleep, on their sleep habits. If a child falls asleep in his parents' bed, and then his parents move him to his bed or crib, it is impossible that when he has a micro awakening during the night, he doesn't wake up completely, because his brain is telling him that something has changed. He's not in the same place or in the same circumstances. He got to sleep in his parents' bed, and now he's in other place. No, something is happening. There's some kind of alarm in his brain. A child should fall asleep in the same place where he's going to sleep the rest of the night, because in each micro awakening, which we also have as adults, every child has it, and also ourselves as adults, his brain will tell him that nothing has changed, that he's calm, that he can continue sleeping. In children with this kind of problem, sustained release melatonin formulations can also be used in a complementary way. But the main thing is a good routine of getting to bed and a good sleep hygiene. These sustaining release melatonin formulations can be used from the age of from the age of 2 in Spain, and we accompany this with the establishment of appropriate routines, as I say. And another thing that we see with children that is quite common is continuous movements during the night. It's another problem. No, is that child who, when his parents are going to wake him up in the morning, looks like a herd of buffalo has passed through the room, all the blankets gone, he's in strange positions, and etc. And this type of children, we have to talk about iron again, because many of these children have low iron levels, and they improve a lot of these continuous movements with supplementation with iron. So common conclusions of sleep. No screens, repeat with me, no screens. As I said, we're talking about feeding, no, the varied diet, fish, meats, and establish beneficial routines. And there's a bonus track. This slide is getting more and more important since COVID-19. We have to promote contact with other children. We have to seek a balance between establishing norms and limits, and at the same time avoiding excessive protectionism. So there's something also that can complete a good diet and a good sleep routine, that is promote contact with other children. It's crucial to their neurodevelopment. So we get into the part of why is important early detection in neurodevelopment disorders. So it's very important because it can optimize school functioning. For example, ADHD. As soon as you detect ADHD, the sooner you can get a solution and optimize school functioning. Early detection of neurodevelopment disorders, they will have a good evolution with intervention. For example, autism spectrum disorders, when you detect autism before the age of 3 years old, you have a very good prognosis. Avoid complex evaluations later, and save time and effort on the part of the families and the education professionals. And the school is so important because there are a lot of hours, approximately 1,000 years in school, and there's a social environment that they can be seen, no, in an environment with other children. As I said, I work at University Hospital, but we have another clinic that is called La Ruta Azul, aka the Blue Route. No? It's some kind of route that we discover with the families, and we saw a problem in our clinic. Is the classical approach to diagnosis and therapy. The traditional approach is it's like requesting an appointment, waiting for the appointment, carry out sometimes troublesome diagnostic evaluation, see where and when the therapy can be started, at what times, commute, and we realize that we have to address the greatest unmet need in neurodevelopment disorders, that is early intervention. Research shows that early intervention can change a child's life and a family life, and however it may take years since parents first express a concern and the time they receive a diagnosis. And even when the diagnosis is received, the cost and availability of the therapy can create further barriers of treatment. So in child neurology, we always say, not time is gold, no, time is neurons. The first years of a child's life are vital for redirecting problems and improving quality of life. And as I said, there is an early intervention we do under the 5 years of age, and a delay since the parental first concern to average age diagnosis it can be shortened. No? So this is our project. In this sense, we have tried to design a workflow that accelerates this entire process so that these types of difficulties can be detected as soon as possible and solved. And we have called it, in Spanish, is called Encajamos Diferente, which means we fit differently, and it is also available in English, but it's encajamosdiferente.com, and there you can take a test, and it will tell you if you have to be concerned about the neurodevelopment of your children or not. You can be calm and quiet and no worries. So this is it. I thank you all very much for your attention, especially for showing so much interest and dedicating a part of your time to try to optimize the potential of your little ones. You are in good hands in the institution in which you have placed your trust in the teaching of your children. I came from Galicia, from the northwest of Spain. We say graciñas, that is thank you in Galicia. Maybe we have some time for questions now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alfonso. It was wonderful to hear your presentation. So I think that maybe we have time for questions. So in this kind of webinar, the participants can't unmute their microphone, but they can write, their questions in the chat. So I'm welcoming everybody who is attending this presentation to write some questions in the chat. Please feel free to ask Dr. Amado any question that you might have, any issue you might be dealing with at home, or something that is out of your curiosity. So this is a perfect time for those questions. And in the meantime, Alfonso, you were talking about an issue these days. I mean, as a pedagogist, I also see this issue in our lives today. I mean, like I'm a mom of 3 children, and comparing my childhood with my children's childhood, I see the lack of play in their lives, and you have been talking about making sure that the children are making connections, right? And so that I think that's part of playing, right? And that's how we bond, that's how we regulate our emotions. And unfortunately, I think that we have less and less time to promote that kind of play. Do you see that in your clinic as well?
Yeah, we see that, especially, as I said, after COVID-19. After COVID-19, there was, we have no choice, so we have to be at home. And there was a lot of screen time, as I said, and barely contact with other children. And I want to emphasize that it's so important to be with other children, and the dangers of screen time. Our brain and their brain is not, is not prepared for that overstimulation, especially under the age of 3 years old. So, like YouTube shorts or games can affect attention spans. They can have sleep problems. The blue light from screens messes with melatonin and that sleep hormone that we talked about before, and is making it harder to kids or to fall asleep. And as well, less real world interaction, too much screen. That time means fewer chances to develop empathy. social cues, communication skills. For younger children, too much passive screen time can slow down speech and language learning. No, they get that dopamine hits. No, games and apps are designed to be addictive, and they have constant reward systems that can lead to so many problems, mood changes, anxiety, depression. So, I mean, I talk about for me as well. We have everybody to try to be less on that, to not to be on that screens every day, all day.
Yeah. Thank you. That's wonderful. Yeah. So back to the importance of playing and reducing the time for screens. Wonderful. So Dr. Amado, we have a few questions in the chat. Can you see them, or you want for me to read them?
I can see it.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So they are so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, the first one is my kids are picky eaters and refuse to eat so many varieties of foods. Are supplements enough? No, they are not enough. I mean, the ideal situation is that they can have a variety of foods, but if we are in the route to get to that variety of foods, sometimes there's a shortcut between that we can deliver some supplements, and that supplements they have to be always delivered or given uh, after doing some blood test, or just knowing that you have a low iron levels or low omega-3 levels, and the supplements, they can be very useful, especially under the age of 6.
Wonderful. Caroline, right? That's your name. I hope that that answer your question. If you have more questions, feel free to ask him some more. We have time. Great. And then we have another one. We have a few. So the second one, is the sugar rush a real thing? How does sugar intake impact on behavior?
Yeah, it depends on your metabolic status, and I'm going to explain this. In a healthy child, sugar should not have impact in any behavior, but there are some children that they are obese, or they have some kind of metabolic imbalance, and they don't metabolize carbohydrates, and sometimes that children can have, you have a lot of sugar, and then you have a rush of insulin to get that sugar inside your cell, and maybe 3 or 4 hours before after that you are so hungry, you are in a bad mood because of that insulin peak, and then it lowers the sugar levels so fast that you are angry, and it can impact your mood and your behavior as well. It's more common in children with some metabolic disbalance, or they don't can metabolize carbohydrates.
But even Alfonso, if you are healthy, if you don't have issues with your metabolism, um, is it healthy to have a sweet breakfast in the morning, or the body appreciates something that has less sugar? Do you have any recommendation for that first meal of the day?
Yeah, there are a lot of differences between children and also in adults. Maybe you can see some friends of you that can eat in McDonald's every day, and they don't get fat, and sometimes other they eat once a month in McDonald's and they get fat. it depends on your metabolism, but as a rule of thumb, you should not give children food that has more than 10 grams of sugar over in 100 grams of that product. I mean,
Okay.
you only can have 10% of sugar in that food. So
Okay.
It's not a recommendation for every child, but we live in a world, as I said, that we have to be very careful on what we eat, especially carbohydrates and sugar.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. Great. So we have another one. Alfonso, do you want to read that one?
Yeah, how to manage a 4-year-old boy hitting at school unintentionally as a part of excitement or playing, no hitting or violence at home or in TV. What's the role of the parent and for the teacher in solving it? Thanks. It's very difficult. I need more context, but maybe you can answer these questions.
Well, I mean, it seems like maybe he's trying to get some attention from the
Could be.
teacher or from the children. Maybe the language is not quite there, and that's the way to interact with other people, to get that attention, to build that connection. And from the outside it can seem like unhealthy, but that's something teachable, right? I mean, like, we can teach him some other strategies to connect with someone, right, in a more healthy way. What do you think, Amado?
No, it is said in the question that no hitting or violence at home or in TV.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
but there's some screen time, I suppose. So
Mm.
in these children that they cannot control their impulses, I mean, it's a 4-year-old child. It doesn't seem something very severe, but in this kind of children, maybe sometimes that dopamine hits. Maybe it's games or YouTube that are not violent, not a violent content, but they are designed to be addictive. So that constant reward systems can lead to problems with impulse control and lead some kind of frustration. No, they cannot control their frustration. Maybe I don't.
Hmm. Yeah. So no, that's why this kind of intervention is crucial at this age, right? So he can learn some other kind of behaviors that show excitement and happiness, right, when connecting and interacting with other people. That is not just like hitting. So yeah, but modeling is super important, right? So as a parent, we can model this interaction, and as a teacher the same. And I'm pretty sure that that's something that they are dealing with in the classroom. So that's great. Perfect. And then Alfonso, we have another one from Ana Isabel.
Yeah, hello, Alfonso. Could be the iron deficiency related with a bad quality of sleeping, causing a child of 7 or 8 years old wetting the bed, considering that other causes have been ruled out. There are two different things. One is bad quality of sleeping, could be related to iron deficiency because it's very common. And the other one is wetting the bed. Sometimes there are children that they have, it's called enuresis, no? When they wet the bed, but they don't have a bad quality of sleeping. So wetting the bed is not related with iron deficiency, but bad quality of sleeping is maybe related to iron deficiency. And the other one is a very good point.
Mhm.
I understood that hem iron, hemoglobin iron from red meat is the only valid option. Sorry about that. I was not clear. It's not the only valid option, but I tried to simplify it as much as I could, just to have some checkpoints that if you want to have the more iron in the less kind of food, red meat could be a good option, but there are a lot of good options to have iron meat. And as I said, we have some vegan families that they don't eat fish nor meat, and they are with a nutritionist that can get them a diet that is high in iron and doesn't have red meat. So it can be other foods that not the red meat that can have high quality iron as well. So very good point and very clear. Thank you about that.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. And yeah, so it seems like we don't have more questions, Alfonso. Is there something that you want to highlight, or is there
There's
any
another
other
part
thought?
of the question. It is recommended to annually check children for iron levels. If they have a variety of foods in their diet, it's not mandatory. But in children that they don't eat a variety diet, it's very they should have annually check for iron levels. And it is very difficult to measure omega-3 levels. We do it here in our clinic, but it's very difficult. You have to send the sample to London, to UK. It's very complex. And what we do is a dietary questions. So how they eat, and depending on that dietary questions, we give them some supplementations or not, if we think that they can be low omega-3 levels. Thank you about that.
And that's interesting, Alfonso, because I think that my children, for example, they eat a variety of food, but after your presentation, I'm wondering whether, one of them is getting iron or not, because one is into meat, but he doesn't like fish, and the other one is the opposite. So I'm wondering, and like I always go to the pediatrician to get the checkups and things like that, but that wasn't never like a question. I mean, like, they didn't even give me the option, for my children to get tested. So that's something that as a parent you have to advocate. I mean, if you think that there must be an issue related to nutrition, like a lack of, these kind of like nutrients, do you have to push the pediatrician, to get that kind of test, from, another country or whatever? Or you think that with this kind of survey that you also do in your clinic is enough? I mean, what do you recommend for parents? The survey is a good beginning?
Yeah, if there is any doubt, some iron levels checkup should be performed. If you have any doubt, because it's very simple, it's very easy, and you can rule out an iron deficiency in a quick way.
Okay, so that the pediatrician can do that, right? As you said, is the drop of your blood, right? Okay, great. That's wonderful. Well, this is actually super helpful. Yeah, because as a parent, right, it's always hard to make decisions, on behalf of our children, right? We feel so much pressure and responsibility. So to have an expert like you, sharing, these concerns that some of us, right, like relate to that. So this is so wonderful. So Alfonso, thank you.